A strong brand gives you a real advantage when you're building a social media presence. Facebook's Epic Brand Framework can help you build or strengthen your brand. Remember that it consists of 4 building blocks: existence, purpose, identity, and connection. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of what we mean by a brand's identity, and you'll know what to focus on as you build your brand. Identity refers to the visual look and feel of the brand. This includes the logo, the color palette the business chooses, the aesthetic of the images the business uses, and even the typography they choose. When we discussed in the previous lesson about a brand being an experience or an intangible feeling, it's usually the visual identity someone is picking up on. Let's start with logos, because they tend to be the most recognizable and powerful aspect of a brand. For example, how many of these logos do you recognize? If you recognized a number of them, you'll know how logos play a big part of brand recognition. How many other logos do you wear on a t-shirt or a hat, or maybe have displayed on a bumper sticker? That shows the power of brands to become an identity and a culture for the consumers. A logo captures the sense of the brand in one image. We won't go over every step of how a logo is created, but logo creation combines all the things we've looked at: origin story, problem solving, purpose, values, and keywords associated with the brand, and uses those deeper elements to inform the design. A logo must also communicate other aspects of the brand, like innovation, tradition, or whimsy. Finally, what would a logo or a brand be without its signature color? You could probably readily recognize Starbucks' signature green color palette. You'd probably readily recognize Facebook's blue as well. And Coke has its signature red label. But what if Coke had a yellow label? It wouldn't be Coke then, would it? Or you wouldn't associate Coca-Cola with yellow packaging. What if Coke had a blue label? Then you'd confuse it for Pepsi. Curating a color palette for your brand isn't only about having it be readily recognizable to your customer and differentiating from other products. There's a lot of psychology behind color and color choices, and a color palette can set the tone for your brand as well. Red is excitement, blue is trust, orange is fun, brown is natural, and black is prestige. There doesn't necessarily need to be deep science behind the color choices for your brand. Pick a palette that feels right for your business and use it to influence site design, advertising, packaging, and more. Imagery is another aspect of creating a brand's visual identity, and this can include the types of photos, visuals, or illustrations a brand uses on its website or in social media feeds. This will not only evoke a feeling, but create a kind of ecosystem for that brand. For example, Airbnb, the business that connects renters with guests, showcases beautiful photography of locations on its social media feed. Instead of advertising cheap rental rates, they're featuring the beauty and uniqueness of locations around the world, which will then inspire you to book a trip through them. Finally, typography, or the selection of typefaces and fonts that a business chooses, helps communicate its visual brand. Like a logo, typeface is trying to capture the feeling and association of the brand in lettering. And while a business can certainly just pick a font from the drop-down, a business wanting to be deliberate about its brand will weigh its story, values, and purpose while choosing their typeface. In many ways, a brand's typeface will be as recognizable as its logo. Look at the New York Times and the New Yorker. Both are long-running, well-respected New York-based publications. The New York Times uses classic, straightforward typeface in its text, and its logo still features its original black-letter typeface, which fits the New York Times' brand as a solid, trusted purveyor of objective news. The New Yorker's typeface, however, is curved, each letter taking up a different size, and is individual, artistic, and whimsical, much like the content of the New Yorker. Let's get back to Kala and Ivy and help Imra create a visual identity for her business. The good news is that we've already done a lot of work to help us establish a visual identity, in that we wrote her origin story and we articulated the values of her business. First, let's make a logo which captures the bouquets that Imra makes. The lettering in her business name is curved and creative, communicating a kind of friendliness and approachability, some of the keywords that were mentioned under the brand's purpose. Since this is a flower shop, it would make sense to choose a color palette related to flowers or nature. We've chosen soft greens and teals, which communicate calm, serenity, and trustworthiness, but also suggest the brand's value of sustainability. Finally, we put together some images that we'll use as guidance for our social media feeds and website design. Some of the images are of Imra's flower creations, highlighting her products and design. One is Imra herself creating a bouquet, showing the artisanal nature of the brand. And the final image is a bouquet being given, which communicates the inherent connection created by giving a gift of flowers. Now we can use this visual identity to influence our design, branding, marketing, and even everyday business choices going forward. As we went through this lesson, brands we didn't mention probably came to mind as you thought about the logos, color palette, imagery, and maybe even typography of businesses you interact with on a daily basis. Continue to take note of visual branding to inform your future branding choices. A brand's identity matters. It's how people recognize and remember brands, so make sure to give it some thought. Document your brand's identity and then be consistent and stick with your choices. We've now explored 3 components of our EPIC framework: existence, purpose, and identity. In the next video, we'll turn our attention to the final component: connection.